Mike from Conway writes, I'm 63 and am considering retirement soon. I have a large amount of money in my 401k, which I have built up over the years. I may be oversimplifying the situation, but why shouldn't I just simply pull from my 401k what I need to live on above my Social Security? I'm sure I'm missing something, so help me out. Well, Mike, we are going to help you out, and here's where we would begin with that big risk. 401k plans, if you're planning to leave that in the 401k, there is an inherent risk to what we call sequence of return risk. So if you're going to randomly or even systematically pull money out of that 401k, it may be in a growth investment or multiple growth investments. Likely is because 401k plans are great accumulation vehicles. They have a lot of growth funds available in there. But as we've seen, as you've probably seen with your 401k in the last few months, that can take a hit at any given time. Short-term volatility is the price we pay for long-term growth. And if you lose 2 or 3 or 4% in value in that 401k and you're making withdrawals, that can deplete the value of your 401k in a much quicker fashion. John, we've seen study after study on this that can compare year to a different year, even month to a different month on when withdrawals began. And they may, in that comparison, those withdrawals may be the exact same amount, but because no one, including financial advisors, can control the order in which you get the returns in the market, that puts you at serious risk.
What you got to have is you got to have the right strategy. And hear me when I say this, that an investment is not necessarily a strategy. A strategy is how you actually execute the plan that you've put together. And that is why you don't necessarily want to leave it in the 401k. The 401k is an investment vehicle. It is not a financial plan. It is not a strategy by which you're going to execute income coming to you from that set of investments. And so sequence risk is one of the risks that is sitting out there in the midst of that 401k with no financial advisor attached to it, no one coaching you along the way, helping you to be sure that your strategy keeps you from executing on sequence of return risk and runs you out of money before you run out of time. That's one of the things that a plan does for you. Also, there is longevity risk. The fact that we are living longer, the fact that medical advances are causing us to live longer and longer. And by the way, we're trying to retire earlier and earlier. And what that does is it really just puts this rubber band tension on your assets. And when you think about running out of money, you don't want to be in a situation where you can't pay your basic living expenses because there's no money there left to pay with. What you want is regular, predictable income that is able to be continued throughout the rest of your life, regardless of how long your retirement is or how long you might live. And so that's what we call longevity risk. Yeah. I think one other thing, Scott, that we want to talk about, actually two other things. One is inflation risk. And we've seen that. Everybody ought to know that you've got to have some way of increasing your income over time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about next, and it was really drawing the two together, longevity risk and inflation risk. Because Mike says, why can I not just live on Social Security to pay my expenses and then use my 401k for what I need above and beyond my living expenses? And a key problem with that is Social Security is probably not going to keep up through the rest of your life with your living expenses. The cost of living adjustments on Social Security are usually tracking well below the overall senior inflation rate. Now, when I say senior inflation rate, is we've seen the cost of living adjustment on Social Security is set based on a 3-month time period late in the year, the average inflation rate in any given year. So if you go back to 2024, I think it's August, September, and October, if I recall, they averaged those months of the core inflation rate across the board in this country, and that is how they give the Social Security inflation-adjusted cost of living raise. However, that doesn't include things that seniors, some things that the seniors will be spending money on, like drugs, healthcare costs, those type of things. So,
well, and also you can see increases in Medicare costs almost vanquish any increase that you get in Social Security.
Yeah. So a key takeaway there is your Social Security is not likely to cover your living expenses for the duration of your retirement. So you still need to build in inflation-adjusted raises from your investments. So that goes back to needing some growth, John, which the 401k might be good at. But again, you need a strategy that encompasses both conservative investments for the money that you're taking now in retirement and growth investments for the money you need to take later because you're going to need to take larger withdrawals.
The last one, Scott, is unexpected expense risk. And this is when you just come up and say, you know what, I've got $50,000 I want to go spend on a car. Well, the question becomes, okay, how does that affect your overall plan and your ability to keep income flowing to you? It's kind of like the difference between milking a cow and eating steak. You know, if you go and kill the cow and get steak, then you're probably going to not have very much milk the next day. Yeah. So that's the whole issue with that unexpected expense risk. You've got to be able to plan for those and understand how they affect your overall long-term ability to produce income to you.
So to wrap up there, if you leave your money in your 401k, it might be difficult to avoid the risk you're going to face in retirement. And even if you decide to roll that money out of your 401k and get it into an IRA where you may have access to different types of investments, do you really want to go it alone and create your own investment strategy and kind of just willy-nilly decide I'm going to take this much out in March and this much out in October, and next year it might be different? Using a financial advisor who builds a retirement income plan can alleviate a lot of those problems, and I would encourage you to do that.